were to look up the words Olympic legend in the dictionary, there's a very high chance you are going to find a picture of our next guest today. 4-time Olympian, 6-time Olympic medalist, including 2 gold medals and numerous other records that she has set during her incredible career. It's a pleasure to welcome back to the show, Anna Meares. Anna, welcome back to Off the Podium.
Thank you. Always great to come in and have a chat.
I am pumped to have you on the show, Anna, in this capacity. Obviously, we've talked a couple of times in person in the lead up to Paris. Exciting for this one. But I actually want to start off on a different note today, because at the time of recording this, you're having a pretty darn exciting week. You've been hanging out with Thomas Bach, and I just wanted to start right then and there on Thomas Bach. How is T Bach? How's it been showing him around Australia and Brisbane this week?
Look, it's been really fun. I must admit, when we did the Olympics Unleashed program at the Brisbane State High that he came along, it was a pretty phenomenal panel. And to sit next to him and talk to school students about pressure and in being involved in sport and finding fun in things, you could see he was really almost resorting back to those memories of when he was an athlete or even a young student. He got the jacket off and he got into play volleyball with the students. So look, I think that they're really loving the Australian kind of culture and character and the fun that we have, but there's also a lot of work to be done, which is the whole point of them visiting ahead of the Brisbane 2032 games. But look, it seems to be really cool. I got to meet Kirsty Coventry, the incoming IOC president, as well, and the team that works so hard to put the Olympics on.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting that they're here in Australia and doing that, and to have Kirsty here as well. I mean, look, I was very young in the 90s, but I don't remember there being a Juan Antonio Samaranch visit playing volleyball at a Sydney high school. So I could be wrong. Maybe that did happen. But one thing you might be able to clarify with us here on the show, Anna, is it law that when you introduce Thomas Bach, you've got to say the words Olympic champion fencing? Because we always see when he gets his name said, it's Olympic champion fencing. We think, is there some bylaw that we haven't understood that it has to be said with his name?
Look, I think it's an unwritten law that he's the IOC president, but you never let go of the achievement of anything done by an Olympian. It's quite abnormal, to be honest, and it's nice to see, even as life progresses, that that's never forgotten.
Yeah,
and it shouldn't be.
Once an Olympian, always an Olympian, right? That's
exactly
that's the saying. Speaking of Olympics, I want to go back to Athens, because I just read both your books, which I'm going to show to the camera here right now for our video people, the Anna Meares story and then Anna Meares Now. Get them where you can. Both fantastic reads. I love the story in Athens when you're about to pedal to your first ever gold medal, that it all could have been derailed by a fly. Please tell this story, because this blew my mind, that your first Olympic medal, your first Olympic gold medal, a fly could have taken this away from you.
Yeah. You remember the movie Wimbledon?
Yes.
Where they're serving for the match and then all of a sudden they're thinking, gee, did I turn the stove off? And your mind just goes off in this weird tangent. And it was almost a little bit like that for me. I'm the last rider at the Olympics, 20 years of age, an Olympic record's been set. So there's a massive amount of pressure. And I've never started last before in my life. I did so much mental work leading into this very moment to stay as composed and focused as possible to still go out and deliver a performance. And then all of a sudden this fly just started to buzz around my face and my arms. And if you look back in the video, you can actually see it, and you can see my eyes and my head kind of moving with it. And once I get my hands locked in a comfortable position on the starting bars, I don't like to move them. So all of a sudden I'm like 10 seconds out from the biggest race of my life. And I'm trying to flick my elbow and blow this fly away from, this proximity of where I was. And then the 5-beat countdown started and I totally lost track of it. But there's a snap of me right out of the first pedal stroke out of the gate, and just about 3 or 4 centimeters above my head, you can see that fly.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Really surreal. I was actually told my daughter that story the other night. She asked me to tell her a story about when I was an athlete, and that was the one that I told her. And I played around with the fly being really annoying in her face and around her hands, and she was even trying to shoo it away. So Yeah, it could have all been derailed, but yeah,
It's
maybe it created a bit of a bow wave for me.
maybe because I mean, you talk about at length in the book about instead of focusing on the what ifs, it's the what is. And it's sort of one of
Yeah.
those things where I like to ask, well, what if that fly had have derailed it and you wouldn't have been there? But I mean, clearly that didn't happen. Every time now I've got a fly flying around me, I'm just going to think about it differently, essentially kind of have that. I mean, on sort of that mental aspect, you heavily go into how you use that aspect of your training and everything to improve yourself. I mean, I love sort of the notion where you talk about you can train yourself to a certain point physically, but it's that mental aspect often that gets you over the line, helped you a lot in the Victoria Pendleton rivalry. Is that something that you like to instill in athletes when you come into, relationships or talking with them today, be it through your role with the AOC or just helping young up and coming athletes when it comes to their journey in the sport?
A lot of the conversational questions I have with athletes happens before the Olympic Games, because what I don't want to do or don't want to have happen is be imposing in an environment where really they just need to be switching off and relaxing as much as possible and allowing all their preparation to come into alignment on competition day. So when I get in front of sports and visit them in their daily training environments, I'm there if they want to ask questions, but I'm also not there to kind of force storytelling on them. But the questions that do come up are not largely around, they're not around training, they're not around fatigue or rest or anything like that, or nutrition, all those things that we think you've got to, do very, very well, which you do. It's around the mental element of it. And in society, it's getting better, but there's a stigma around mental health, right? We understand that if we get a coach or someone to help us physically better, we're seen as doing something really positive and proactive. But when we talk to psychologists or a counselor, everyone feels like they're, not everyone feels like, but there's a stigma around, oh, there's a real problem, and athletes see psychological and mental skills as a similar capacity as a physical coach. They know that there are ways for them to get better. It's like helping them handle the manual for the equipment that they have, so to speak, like the body being the equipment, the manual being the brain. And so, yeah, it's I still feel like I can offer something, even though I've been out of sport for 8.5, nearly 9 years now as a physical competitor. But it still reigns supreme as that one area that a lot of questions comes from.
How much did you see that change throughout your career in terms of the sports psych? Back when you were first starting right through to when you retired, had it improved, or was it still sort of improving to where we're at today with that sort of thing?
I think it's always improving, and it should always be improving. I think we really, my coach Martin Barras and my first sports psych Georgia Riddler, the preparation we did for Athens in '04 was really, I feel like, for forefront work. And I don't know how I would have coped in that environment had I not have done that psychological work. So I think you have to have the right mix of people who are open-minded to it, who want to be able to explore the potential improvements that they can get out of themselves through every avenue and opportunity. But you also have to have the right person delivering that for that athlete. It's a very personal space, psychological work, and if you don't have a connection with that person, it's not gonna work for you.
Speaking of psychological and getting into mindset and everything, you had a encounter with John Eales, the great Wallabies legend, in the lead up to London, and he helped you in terms of getting that mental edge over Victoria ahead of those Olympics by a simple case of just waiting a little bit longer, letting her waiting on the line a little bit longer. Just things like that helped in that journey. I mean, did you ever think that something as simple as that could help you go on to win an Olympic gold medal? Just show up to the line a couple of seconds later.
Yeah, it's not rocket science, right? And sometimes it's just a simple little thing that could tip the energy in a space like the velodrome one way or the other. And it was Nick Flyger, who, funnily enough, is now my husband. He said to me, if there's anyone who knows how to perform in front of, a boisterous home crowd, like against the All Blacks, it's John Eales. And you've got a man who knows how to survive in these environments. Ask him questions, see if you can apply something similarly as you go into the heavily British crowd at the London Olympic Games against Victoria. And he said beautiful things, simple things like everywhere she goes, you are. So why can't the noise of the crowd be your support as well? Yeah, every now and then you would hear very clear comments, but largely under the helmet and the heavy breathing, it was just noise. So all of a sudden I felt like I had 6,000 more fans as opposed to 6,000 people who didn't want to see me succeed. But yeah, just allowing her to absorb that hometown pressure of the crowd and the noise and staying back a little bit to talk simple dot point reiterations with my coach and waiting for that noise to drop just felt I didn't feel as intimidated in that environment. And it was a beautiful piece of advice from John.
I love hearing that. I know when I was in Paris, I was at the archery and spoke to Laura Paglis after she'd been eliminated in the knockout phase, but she got eliminated by a French archer. And I asked her about that after she got eliminated, and she said a very similar thing. She's like, well, I actually used it as an advantage. I kind of made it believe that they were there cheering for me, and that's why I did so well in that. So it's interesting to hear that perspective from athletes who are able to use a boisterous crowd against them to their advantage.
Yeah. And what'll be interesting, especially as we go forward to Brisbane 2032 for our home team and our athletes, is how they handle that home crowd, because it can go one way or the other when it comes to nerves and expectation and pressure. So you go from all these years, pretending that a home crowd is there for you, and now all of a sudden it actually is.
Don't use them against you, essentially, at that point right now. They're there for you that day, which, is incredible. I rewatched the London race, and the crowd, it's incredible when you cross the line for the gold, how quiet they go. Like it's just, it's like a pin drop, but you're there absolutely celebrating and going crazy. I mean, at that moment when it goes completely quiet and you're just there, you just, I guess, lost all control. You're not worrying. You're screaming, you're hugging your coach, you're doing all that sort of stuff. I mean, it must be such a surreal environment to celebrate in.
Initially, I didn't recognize what the crowd was doing because I was so lost in the sheer elation of pulling off one of the biggest and most amazing strategic executions that my team had ever put together. And my first thought was, I need to get to my coach. I need to get to my team. Like, this is a celebration to share with them and then to see my family. But this was also an environment where the crowd was sending off their golden girl. She retired after this race. It was a bit of a shock, even though, either of us could have come home with that gold medal. It was a crazy environment. Beforehand, like the decibel reading was so loud, like my ears were bubbling by the noise, and then it rings in the silence afterwards. It's just it's a crazy little flip, and you felt the emotion in a massive arena.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, the whole atmosphere of London was obviously insane in general, and we know how much the Brits love to get behind the athletes. But can you tell the story about when you actually first arrived in London and your interaction that you had with the customs agent when you were getting your passport stamped?
Yeah, it's protocol at the Olympics that you have to have your accreditation papers validated as well as your passport. And when I handed over my passport and papers, I was greeted by an officer who was obviously very jovial and very excited to be hosting an Olympic Games, as was I going to an Olympic Games. But when they looked at my passport and recognized who I was, they looked at me and their smile completely faded, and they said, "Oh, you're Victoria's rival." And I said, "Yes, I am. Please let me in." But they didn't talk to me for the next 15, 20 minutes. And that was a really awkward encounter. And then when they had gone through the processing and were stamping all the papers and gave me back my passport, the parting words that I was given was, "Enjoy your silver." Wow. And I was expecting something, but that I wasn't expecting. So right from the get-go, I was I was in the heat of it. And then as I went through the airport, I asked Carly, my teammate, I said, can you please not leave me alone? Because all my team, the cameras were incredible, like followed us from the exit doors of customs to getting on the bus to getting our bags. And, Carly was amazing to ensure that I never felt like I was left out there on my own to deal with that. And yeah, it was really full on. It
Yeah.
was really full on. I can only imagine, to be honest, I can't imagine what Victoria went through in the lead up to those games. And I have had an opportunity to, guess digest that a little bit with her since we've both retired. It's a pretty incredible experience for both of us.
It's a weird connection I have to that is if you remember back in Sydney at all, sort of around Kathy and Mary Jose Perec, who almost ran out of the country, didn't she, from the pressure and everything that came with that. And of course, we're on the Australian side of that. So we're there going like, they're not doing anything to her. She needs to get over it. Whereas sort of it's the flip side of that. So you're experiencing where you've got a hometown hero on that level. And even something as short, sharp as enjoy your silver can sort of really get in you there. Yeah. So it's fascinating to see the differences there, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't take much for someone in your team or external to your team to plant a seed of negativity. And a little comment like that could have grown at an exponential rate and completely derailed all the work that I had done. And I wasn't even on the bike track competing yet. So, going back to Kathy and Perec, that was an era where mental health for athletes wasn't really talked about or understood. And the preparation that we do now to be able to cope with intensity and pressure and expectation, it still wanes heavy on a lot of athletes today. But that was an era before it became we became aware of mental health for athletes.
And everything that also came to with the press and everything along that period. I mean, your relationship with the press seemed very interesting over your career, particularly when you would say not do a lot of interviews in the lead up, and then obviously how the London press were treating you and everything. How have you, just on the flip side of that, now that you're front-facing the press a lot in your roles that you do now, I mean, have you able to use a lot of that experience as an athlete into now talking with the media, knowing what it is like and sort of using that experience to your advantage now in your current roles?
Yeah, it is good experience, but it's very different, I feel, in the role that I have now as chef. I had very good support from, at the time it was Cycling Australia, that when I said I needed to really have some space to be able to make me feel safe in the intense periods going into big competitions, that constantly doing media and constantly talking about things that distracted me or pulled me down paths that I didn't want to go, I don't think I really had the skill set to cope. And so they really allowed me to have some element of control around the engagement piece. Whereas now I really feel like my role within the relationship with media and the engagement with media is to help that relationship. It's to help tell that story of the athlete and the experiences that they're going through and help facilitate the athlete to tell that story. So it's really important for me now to have a relationship that's built on mutual respect with the media. And I talk to them like I talk to you, I talk to my kids, I talk to my husband, I talk to the staff, I talk to the athletes. And I think that's really important, that at the end of the day, no matter what role we have, we're all people, we're all human. Mm-hmm. And yes, everyone has a job and everyone has a role, but we can all work together in a capacity that delivers for everybody. And I think I've learned a lot post-career by reflecting on my career. And I've also gotten to an age where I feel much more comfortable in my skin and who I am and the things that I have done and where I feel I want to go. And I honestly think becoming a mum has really helped me settle into that.
Was it always a goal to sort of take this path post-career? I mean, I guess, how do you end up as chef, Anna? Like, I mean, sort of, you don't talk about it in the books. So this is what I want to do. So
no, I don't talk about it in the books. Look, it came about when my husband, Nick, and we were just dating, and I was really struggling through transition away from sport. I was trying to piece together my identity and relevance in life without a connection to sport as an athlete. I was being a foster parent. I was starting to get more involved in the community and trying to find a circle or a world that I could fit in without being in sport anymore. And it was Nick who actually said to me, well, if you could do anything and with no pressure or expectation, or take everything off the table, what people think you should do or could do, if there was one thing you could do, what would that be? And I said to him, I'd be chef de mission for Australia. And he's like, why? And I said, because I could work with the next generation of the most motivated, driven group of people in an environment that I've strived to be in for my entire life. And I just think that would be like the dream job. And he said to me, okay, so go chase it. Find out where your skills are lacking, get some mentors, ask some questions, and for goodness sake, tell people, because if you don't tell people, they don't know, they can't help you, they can't create a networking opportunity, a door of opportunity doesn't open. And so this kind of started to roll into commentating for Tokyo 2020 or 21. And then Patria Thomas from Commonwealth Games Australia gave me a call and asked if I'd be a deputy for her at the Commonwealth Games. And I thought, this is my chance to see if being a leader for an Australian team behind the scenes is really what I want to do. And I absolutely loved the role. I learned a lot from Patria. And there I met David Lepatian at the cycling, the UCI president, who invited me to the Wollongong Road World Titles. And at that World Championships was a dinner that he asked me to speak at. And the last question I was asked is, what does the future hold for Anna Meares? And in my head was my husband just saying, for goodness sake, say it, put it out there. This is the time to say it. And so I did. I said I'd love to, thinking 10, 20 years' time, I'd love the chance to be chef de mission for Australia. And the room just erupted, and I couldn't, I don't know how to put this. It was like once I put it out there, it moved so quickly that, before I knew it, Ian Chesterman was sending me a message to talk about the leadership team for Paris. I'm like, great, I could work under him as a deputy at Olympic level and learn from him. And then as I sat down with him and he's like, so I'm looking for a chef, I'm like, oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's all of a sudden when I thought, maybe when I was 50 or 60, I'd have a chance to do it. I'm 39 years of age sitting in front of a man who's been chef for 7 Olympic Games across summer and winter, offering me an opportunity to lead the Australian team. And
wow,
my husband just said to me, Anna, you can't not take this.
Yeah. What an incredible story. That's amazing. And you're obviously coming back for LA. You did a decent enough job. So I just got to say that the state of Australian Olympic teams and chefs, between yourself and Alyssa, I mean, guests on this show cannot stop talking about how good you guys are. So I'm just saying right now, you got all the glowing recommendations. And personally, having worked in Paris and seeing what you did as well, absolutely fantastic. So Ian did 7. Are you looking towards for 7, do you think? Can you go that far?
Look, I am really grateful that I have the opportunity. I would, LA is the next goal, obviously, but I would love to do the home games in Brisbane. But that takes, the reappointment process. The sports have to be happy. I have to be the right fit for the team. And so, if I get 3, I'd be happy with that.
You've got 3. I'm telling you now, that'd be stupid to get rid of you. Yeah. And actually, speaking of Alyssa, when I spoke to you in the year to go to Paris, I brought up Alyssa, and we brought up skiing. It was a random thing. And you had mentioned that you'd never done skiing at that point, but Alyssa was going to maybe hook you up. Has she hooked you up with skiing yet?
No, she hasn't. But I've planned a ski trip in the school holidays with my family. So I am now going to hit her up.
There you go.
Look, I think she's doing an amazing job. And the thing is, athletes or athletes who have retired can bring great insight to the AOC team, who are already exceptional at planning and logistics and operations. And so it just goes to another level for performance and experience for the athletes when you can shift perspective a little bit through sharing. So I know Alyssa will do a great job for the Milan Cortina team next year.
We've had a few winter people on recently, and again, just glowing of her every single way of the way. We're going to get to some good questions to wrap. Not these haven't been good questions, Anna. These have been great questions, but some even better questions in just a moment to wrap it up. But 2-part question in relation to almost your role as chef, but sort of taking you back into your athletics career, your career in the Olympics.
Yeah.
When you became the flag bearer for Rio, You get sat down by then chef de mission Kitty Chiller to be told that this is what you're doing, your role in. I just want to fast forward to when you sat down Eddie and Jess and told them, because I asked you, I think it was on the uniform launch. I threw it out there. I'm like, hey, Jess and Eddie, they would be great flag bearers. So I don't know how far in advance that discussion point is. But do you remember what that was like telling them personally?
Yeah.
Did that take you back to when Kitty sort of told you that you were flag bearer?
Yeah, it did. It was really emotional when I sat across from Kitty and she asked me to do it. And I was so excited to talk to Jess and Eddie. And, it's hard to also catch these people off guard too, because there was a lot of talk and hype around them as potential candidates. And so I remember just walking with Jess to her gym session, and I'm like, oh, do you mind just sitting down and having a chat? Or how are you feeling about Paris? There's a lot of pressure and expectation. And, she was like, oh, yeah, I understand that. It's, I'm really excited by it. And just talking by general things like that. And I mentioned, when I was flag bearer and those, and she just didn't pick up on these things. And then I sat down, I'm like, okay, well, I would really love to offer you the chance to be flag bearer. And you could just see, like, she was hit by a brick wall, I reckon, like the stunned look on her face. And then you could just see the little tears coming up in the eyes. It was a really beautiful moment. And then Eddie was just in sheer shock, I think, because he didn't say anything. It's like he didn't really know what to say. But the interesting thing is for Eddie, he's like, I need to understand how this impacts my team, because if that impacts his ability to be able to prepare for game day, if it was, and it was fascinating for me to see him take their priority first, which just reinforced to me that he was the right person for the role.
Wow.
But he didn't know I had already talked to his high performance director, and they were aware of it. So, it was really beautiful because I knew what it was going to mean for them.
What an incredible story. And it sounds so much like Eddie that would sort of be the first thing that came to his mind with that. I love the story about when you carried the flag. That was your first and only opening ceremony as an athlete. You were in the stadium for 5 minutes, Anna.
Yeah, I mean,
it was done and gone.
I was a bit demo, to be honest, because normally you get to walk the whole lap of the stadium, whereas in Rio they went straight through the middle.
Yeah.
But as a track sprinter, being on your feet, it's not the best thing for it, right? So the hard part about that was, like, we had made a decision prior to those games we wouldn't march. And when I was announced as flag bearer, the team, the athletes, I remember Mel was really pushing Kev Tabota, our high performance director, and she's like, I want to go. We want to be there to support Anna. And none of my team could go, so they were there. They got dressed with me. They helped me get ready. They sent me off. They welcomed me home. But, yeah, it was short, but it was sweet. And
Susie O'Neill's daughter was carrying this. I did not know that. That was incredible to learn that.
It was very funny because when she kind of got coming, she was holding the little pot plant and she walked next to me. I said, oh, it's really exciting, isn't it? And she was just nodding with such excitement and this beautiful smile on her face. I'm like, oh, how sweet. She doesn't speak English. And then afterwards, when I met Susie, she's like, oh, that was my daughter. I'm like, really? I had no idea.
Wow.
But very cool.
That's crazy to think that. Just before I get to these questions, two things. We always have to ask our medalists on this show, what do you do with the medals? Is there are they in the Australian Sports Hall of Fame? Do you have it framed? You got 6 of them, Anna. What do you do with them?
I actually don't bring them out very often, to be honest. I have them wrapped up and kept in a safe because I'm very protective of them.
I can imagine, yes.
I would love to display them, but they're not really insurable. I can't put a value on them if they get damaged, lost, or, anything like that. So I tend to bring them out pretty rarely, but every now and then it's pretty fun to have a look at them.
Not just in the sock. I love it when people on the show just like, yeah, it's just in the sock drawer.
Yeah, odd socks are brilliant because you could fit the medal in and then roll it up and it keeps it protected. So yeah, I've got one in an odd sock of mine and one in an odd sock of my daughter's. And
well, I swear we don't ask this question. We're trying to case Olympians' houses to steal medals. That's not what we're doing. It's just that everybody has a different way of doing it. Also, the Anna Meares Velodrome, do you just, like, can you walk into that and just get free entry for life? Can you just walk in and go, no, this is my building, I want that room changed? like what perks do you get by having a building named after you?
Well, I must admit, I try to pay entry when I go to watch the Nationals or the Oceania Championships or the state titles, because my children they just love going to the velodrome, even though they think mummy's name's on there because I used to work there.
Wow.
But they don't let me. They're like, please come in. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. Comes in handy for 2032 then if you're trying to get tickets to the cycling, right? You know?
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, I think that's going to be a very hard-fought venue to get tickets for.
I can imagine, but I'm sure you can say something to Kirsty during the week, right? Like, hey, so when you're here in 2032, my building, my rules, all right? This is what's happening during those Olympics.
I would never dare to say such a thing to her.
I got to say, though, in the ranking of honours that you can get in life, I hold having a building named after you the second highest behind having your face on money. I think once your face is on money, you're set, right? So I know there was a bit of a fight recently over the $5 note. I'm surprised your name didn't get put up to having your face.
Oh, no.
Like, come on.
Definitely not, but thank you.
We have the Anna Meares $5 note.
No, but it was very cool when Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk at the time called me to tell me that it would be officially named the Anna Meares Velodrome. It was very humbling. I didn't
imagine how you react to a phone call. Hi, it's the Premier. Guess what? We're naming a building after you. Okay, cool. Thanks. Enjoy your day.
Yeah, it was such a surreal thing.
Yeah,
such a surreal thing.
I can imagine. Now, and as I said, we're going to wrap up with a set of fun 10 questions to ask all our guests. But before we get to that, I've got a bonus one for you today, because when we very first interviewed you on this show, we had a fun 5 quiz questions that you enjoyed. So much so that the second time I interviewed you, I didn't get to ask you any questions, and you said to me off air, I'm disappointed you didn't have any questions for me this time around. So I've done this specially for you today. I've got 5 bonus questions, and these are all themed around LA, because the last time it was about Paris, so this time it's around LA. How's your LA Olympic knowledge and American Olympic knowledge?
Oh, this is not going to go so well, I don't think.
Good. That's what I wanted to hear. I'm going to test you on this. I reckon you're going to get a few of these, so I'll put this out there. I'll start off with an easy one for you. Before 2028, how many times has LA hosted the Olympics?
Twice.
Twice, correct. Can you tell me the years for bonus points?
84.
Mm-hmm. The 30s. I'll give you a decade. 32. 1932. 32. There you go.
32. There you go. Got one.
You did. Keep track of that. Now, this one, you're going to throw out a number for me, because if you got this perfectly, I'll be very impressed. Including both Winter and Summer Olympics, how many times has the USA hosted the Olympic Games?
I want to say 5 or 6.
It's more than that.
Is it?
Yeah. 8 times they've hosted it. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to go all over all of them, but majority of them are winter. And I'm obviously not including LA in 2 years' time, and Salt Lake, of course, in 2034. But the last time they hosted a Summer Olympics, 1996. So it's been a while since they've had that. And 2002 for the Winter Olympics. So there you go. True or false? Australia has never beaten the USA on the medal tally in swimming at the Summer Olympics.
Ooh. False.
Correct. It is false. We have done it twice. 3 times. I apologize. 1900, 1912, and 1956. I'm obviously not including 1980 when the USA didn't show up. So we can do it again. You know, we
can do it again.
Nearly did last year. We were so close. What is the most successful Summer Olympic sport in terms of total medals won by the USA?
Would have to be athletics.
It would be athletics, correct. They have won 862 medals in athletics. Swimming, second.
Really?
800, that's just a few. That's just a few. I think that's more than Australia has won in total at the Olympics overall. That's insane. So
wow.
That is a lot. Swimming, their second highest. Wrestling, third. Diving, fourth. And artistic gymnastics, fifth. So there you go.
That's very cool to know.
Well, here's a real fun one because we loved asking this question in the lead up to Paris, and this has got an added sport to it now because you think USA, you think dominance, you think they've won medals in every sport. But I can tell you, Anna, there are 6 Summer Olympic sports on the program at LA that the USA have never won medals in. Now, these are sports, not events. We're not going that specific. But of those 6, can you name any of these 6 sports that USA have never won a medal in at the Summer Olympics?
Fencing?
Is incorrect. They have won medals in fencing before.
Handball?
Correct. Handball is one of them.
This is a very good question.
I'll give you a big hint. There's a returning sport coming in LA that hasn't been in the Olympics for a very long time.
Lacrosse?
No, not lacrosse. Think of the other one. They've won a medal in lacrosse before. Australia's very good at this sport that's coming. Cricket. There you go. Yep.
You got to tell me the rest.
Okay, so I will add, I'm not including flag football or squash, which have never been at the Olympics before. So badminton. They've never won a medal in badminton. You said handball. Rhythmic gymnastics, believe it or not. They've never actually won a medal in rhythmic gymnastics. Trampoline gymnastics, either. There you go. And table tennis. So
wow,
there's your fun facts to use going into LA.
That is some very good facts.
I know, right? You think they've won it in everything, but and fencing. Actually, recently enough, I believe they actually got some medals in fencing in Paris. So they're actually okay in the fencing side of things. Anna, I'm glad those are done, but now we're going to get to the real 10. These are the ones that we ask all of them. Do you enjoy that? Do you enjoy those trivia ones? Do we need to make sure we have all those?
I love it.
Okay, good. As long as it's improving your knowledge and role and helping you into LA. These are 10 that we ask all of our guests, and I'll start with the first one. And what is the one thing that you never left home without when you traveled to a competition?
My tiger blanket.
Tiger blanket? What is a tiger blanket?
When I was 18, I made myself a tiger blanket, and it gave me my designated space in the pit where I sat.
Right.
So where my tiger mat was, no one was to put their shit. So yeah, my tiger blanket.
I like that. That's a great way of explaining it. A tradition. I mean, this is sort of ties into what you just answered. But was there ever a tradition or superstition that you followed before every competition outside of the tiger blanket?
Yeah, I always wore black socks for time trialing, which was a bit of a faux pas for cycling. And I don't know if you go back and watch the London sprint finals, I don't know why I fell into this habit, but I would always tighten the left glove, right glove, helmet, skin suit, number, left glove, right glove.
Wow.
I had that routine.
Yeah, and you still got it memorized right there.
Yeah, it was just the norm. I think it gave me a sense of normal or control in an environment where I really had very little of it.
Interesting. What was the faux pas around black socks in cycling?
It just wasn't a done thing. Okay. Still isn't a done thing. Black socks is just, it should be a crisp white or a colour.
Interesting. Is that like a traditional thing? Like tennis is kind of like?
Yeah, a traditional thing.
Fascinating. The things you learn on this show. A song that was on every one of your pre-competition playlists, no matter what.
AC/DC Thunderstruck.
Didn't even hesitate. You knew that one straight away. I love that. I loved it sort of hearing when in your first book going to Beijing and you were always talking about putting the music on and just sort of getting in that zone. So bit of akadaka. Got to have that, right? Good answer. The most unexpected or funny DM that you ever got as an Olympian?
Well, social media actually came in when I was going through my Olympic career. So we didn't have social media in Athens in 2004. It was very fresh in Beijing. It was very big in 2012. I don't really do the DMs, to be honest.
Okay.
So to those people who follow me, I probably don't read them.
There you go. You've clarified that. There's people listening who's going, Anna, you won't reply to me. Understand why.
No, some I do. I really love the ones where parents send me like book week photos where the kids get dressed up as me, or the young girls that I have met that all have been inspired that have taken up cycling and they send me a photo of them the first time they're at the velodrome.
Fantastic.
It's very special.
Great stories. I like that. The weirdest thing that you ever ate at an international competition, and did you like it?
Look, I'm a bit funny on food. I don't tend to go a bit. I don't tend to be adventurous with food, especially when it's competition time. I don't have an answer for that one. Sorry.
Nothing on that one. No, that's all good. So, well, on food, after a competition, do you have a guilty pleasure meal that you sort of, I know you love chocolate. Was it always chocolate?
Yeah, it was chocolate or it was a rum.
Yes. I like that.
Yeah, rum and Coke.
Yeah, that works.
Because I always would have this period 3 months before a world champs and 12 months before an Olympics where I wouldn't drink.
There you go. So it comes out. What's your go-to chocolate? What's your favorite chocolate?
Depends what mood I'm in. I when I was an athlete, I liked the Mars bar. De Lamington, I loved De Lamington. That was always the one I went for as well.
Nice.
But yeah, I do like plain chocolates.
Okay. Actually,
I don't like.
You'd be a good person to get a gauge on this answer then. The chocolate muffin in the Paris Village. Our athletes loved it. What did the chef?
Amazing.
The chef liked it too? Okay.
Yeah. That was what you hope was still there every time you went in so that you could have one.
Okay, good to know. That from the very top, it's also very highly revered. If you could have swapped sports for a day with another Olympian, what event would have you chosen and how do you think you would have done?
Weightlifting. And would have been terrible.
I like that answer.
Yeah, I love weightlifting. I was trained by some great weightlifting coaches and athletes at the Sassy gym because as a track cyclist, we needed to obviously be very strong and you didn't want to injure yourself when you're lifting so much weight. And I was just amazed by the strength and the beauty of the power that the weightlifters had. And it was real drama and, really intense to do that activity in front of a crowd. So I would definitely do weightlifting and I'm not sure that I would have been in competition, but I would have given it a crack.
We'd watch. There's still time. Just saying, you got a couple of years to LA. Never say never. Now, this one I've got help for. If your Olympic journey were a movie, what would the title be and who do you think would play you?
Look, I'm a fan of Sandra Bullock.
Yes.
I reckon she'd be a good person, a good actress.
I can see that. That's a good answer.
Yeah. In terms of titles,
well, I've got some help here if you want some because ChatGPT is very handy when it comes to this sort of stuff. Now, I don't want to go over all of them, but a couple of them here: Meares, Track of Glory, Steel and Speed, the Anna Meares story. That one's all right.
That's not bad.
Pedal to Victory, Power and Grace, the Anna Meares Legacy. Not too bad. But I've actually asked them, you're the very first athlete I've had on this show that I've got this. I've got them to do a movie poster. They've gone with Against the Clock, the Anna Meares story. And I'm going to hold this up for our video people right now. That is what they've come up with. Against the Clock, the Anna Meares story. How do you like that as a poster?
That's a bit scary.
It is very scary, isn't it? But there you go. That is what they think a poster would be. They're coming to cinemas this summer, potentially. Sandra Bullock. There she is, playing there. So I don't know. How would you be if somebody rang you up and was like, Anna, we want to do a movie on you? How do you?
I don't.
Too much?
No, I'm not sure about that one.
No? Even if it was Sandra Bullock going,
yeah, I know.
Hi, Anna, it's Sandra Bullock here.
I'd be very flattered, but I don't know about that one.
Passing that one. I've got a building named after me. I don't need that. One question you're tired of being asked, and what is the one question you wish people would ask you instead?
Oh. One question I'm tired of being asked. Well, when I retired, the one question I got asked the most was, why is your event called the sprint when you go so slow?
Wow. Wow.
And that was just, people trying to understand what I actually did. So when you explain that the sprint is over a qualification and 6 different rounds against different competitors, and it's a best of 3 matchup when you get to quarters, semis and finals, and it's really about fatigue management as well as execution, it becomes a great conversation for them to have, because then when they watch it the next time, they have a bit of an understanding of what they're watching. So that was the question I got hit with the most, I reckon, when I retired.
Wow.
And the other ones, did you ever see anyone take drugs? That was always one that came up. I just find that an interesting question that people seem to want to ask. What would I wish they asked instead? But people ask some really fascinating questions, and a lot of them have made me have to sit and think about it, because it's one thing to know how to do something. It's another thing to articulate it in a way that people understand. And sometimes that takes time to get your own head around.
Yeah.
And that's why I like doing the speaking circuit, because the Q&As and the engagement I get with the audiences, I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful.
Always throw some out there for you. That makes it interesting. Last one, deep question. One lesson you learnt more from losing that changed you more than winning?
Oh, I've had some big losses in my time, but it's when you experience loss, you really know who's in your corner.
Yep. Great answer. Absolutely there. Anna, it is an absolute honor to have you back on this podcast and to delve more into your career and your journey and everything. We're going to wish you all the best of luck with everything moving forward. We know you're going to kick ass in LA, in Brisbane, in 2036, in 2040, in 2044, 2048. We know it's going to happen, and it's always an absolute pleasure to be able to have you on this podcast and chat to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Ben.